Hola, hola. Oh, what's up, everybody? Let's see. Hopefully, notifications went out. I usually like to give a heads up, more advanced notice, but I didn't do it this time, so we might have to give it a minute for notifications to go out. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're at. Harry Potter, Tay Wilson, Jennifer, Courthouse Cat. I have questions. Wendy Hamilton, what's up? Tiny Red Base, April. Everybody. Sebastian Rogers, still missing. We saw the press conference the other day, and one of the things is they mentioned the glasses that were found. They're saying and confirming that it's not his. They're waiting for that. And then they also did a massive search. I think it's still happening now, too. I don't think they've yielded anything that I know of, but there was this interview on this YouTube page last night with Justin on TikTok is the name. We'll listen to a few clips, but I put his channel in the description to go watch the full interview. Also, there's a Nancy Grace episode that had come out where I think she spoke with the biological father and United Cajun Navy. Let me just show you this. Somebody posted this on Reddit. And this is with regards to that interview that was done. Okay, I think I got a notification just now. Good morning, good morning. There is so much going on. Sebastian Rogers, Caleb Harris, I still need to update. There's this news story too, these two mothers that are missing that I've been wanting to kind of dabble in. The Diddy stuff. Something else. Oh yeah, there was this guy. See, there was some type of fight or something that happened at a river, and a guy was disemboweled, meaning like his stomach or whatever was cut, and his intestines came out, and he was testifying. Pretty wild trial, it seems like. Booler, thank you for the 5. Says you know what I'm going to say. Nancy Grace sucks. So this is, I guess, a type of summary that we're going to listen to some of it. This whole interview was heartbreaking. The SA, Chris branding him a pedo, them giving him meds to sleep. Like Seth said, he has no issues with sleep at his. Probably because Sebastian isn't thinking about all the harsh things he's been going through all day, like he would be in Chris and Katie's house. So supposedly Seth dropped a lot of bombs last night. There's a few clips we can listen to. Again, I'll put the YouTube channel so you can go watch the whole thing. Did he say if you were ever reported to the police, 13 or not, it should have been dealt with and at least logged with PD, especially if there was child custody issues? Chris seems like he tries and succeeds to manipulate a lot of people. Intimidation, twisting truths, and gaslighting seems to be a big part of his life. I think he does this to Katie, and she goes along with it. More fool on her. This whole Nancy Grace polygraph thing, that's another big thing. Okay? One of the last times, Wendy, thank you so much for the memberships, the gifts. Thank you, gifting 5 memberships. One of the last times that he was on there, Chris, I think Nancy was like, oh, will you take a polygraph? Because I thought I heard him on other places say that he took it and it's cleared. But then on Nancy at some point, he said he didn't, but he would. And so we're going to listen to a clip. Nancy then sets up a whole thing of like, here, I'll send them out to you. I'll send them by your job. We'll send the polygraph people to you. And so far, I believe he hasn't done it yet, which is a little weird. Not that he has to do it, but if you've been going around saying that you've done it or that you're willing to do it, and then you get it sent to your house and then you don't do it. So it goes on to say, yeah, this whole Nancy Grace polygraph thing just shows he tells everyone what he likes. He doesn't even care that he's telling everyone different things, like he has, then he hasn't, then he wasn't allowed. Yeah, supposedly now they're saying he wasn't allowed. The whole thing about Katie working for a home security place and not owning any was a thing that threw me. She should know how important it is. Guarantee that it's because she didn't want anything caught. So, and here's another thing. Hold on a second. Nancy Grace herself posted this, and this was this morning. And she says, in a recent interview with Sebastian Rogers' stepdad, Chris Proudfoot told Nancy Grace he would take a polygraph test, but so far, it's unclear if they did. We set up a polygrapher, a very well-respected polygrapher, a place and a time. Mr. Proudfoot tells us that he has been instructed by the TBI to be on with us today. Oh, sorry, by the TBI not to be on with us today. So the TBI, Tennessee Bureau of what is it? Information? What does TBI mean? I forgot. My foggy brain today. Tennessee Bureau of Investigations. All right. Tennessee Bureau of Investigations. So he's saying, and these people, you know, they've been going on a world press tour, it seems like to me, almost. And I don't blame them, trying to get attention on their kid. But now, don't go on the podcast, specifically Nancy Grace, I guess. Don't go specifically on Nancy Grace's podcast. And, yeah. And ask for help finding his stepson and not take the polygraph. All right. So that's interesting. Let's play this clip here.
Told me that someone is also trying to sabotage your search for your own son. What's happening?
Somebody doesn't want me to find my son. They have been, there's things that have been coming in off the internet that I need to stop searching for him. I've had people following me around since I would say day 9, day 10. People have been following me around. Once I started getting volunteers to help me, they started following around my volunteers, trying to be an intimidative factor. And now I found out that not only that, but they're going back to where we've already flyered, and they're taking the flyers down.
Okay, I don't know what to make of this. Brian Trasher is the vice president of the United Cajun Navy. Okay, and there have been many.
So we're going to listen to this whole thing. I don't think this video has been put out yet, but we have the audio version. Nancy's been putting, they've been dropping like bits and pieces on the YouTube page.
Incarnations of the Cajun Navy. But this is what I know. This group is out searching for Sebastian. They called off part of the search because they perceived threats. Now the bio dad, Seth, is telling me that flyers have been torn down for Sebastian. I don't understand that. What's happening, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, as you heard us say in the past, you now heard Sebastian's father, Seth, say that there are, without question, people in the local community, whether they're locals or not remains to be seen, but there are people there in Sumner County that do not want this boy found, and they want people who are searching for him to stop, and they've resorted to threats to try to make them stop. Fortunately, it hasn't worked because we still have people out there looking, and I know Seth is not going to stop looking.
And I wonder if this is an old clip that she posted, because I thought they weren't searching anymore. I don't know. A lot of people are looking at the United Cajun Army with a side eye. SF said this is from today and quite shocking in the Sebastian Rogers case. And this was posted today. Yeah. Okay. United Cajun Navy is once again lying. They claim they found a body with their dogs on day 1. That was a lie. They claim that they were working with law enforcement, which I thought I heard that too. I thought I heard them say that. I can't be sure, but I do know in the press conference they said they're not together or whatever. They claimed they were working with law enforcement. That was a lie. They canceled every search day. There were a lot of cancellations, I guess, due to weather. They claimed threats that none have not notified law enforcement of a single threat, even though they said they pulled out of the search because of threats. And Seth backs them up, which seems like a slap in the face to the actual volunteers that actually do show up day after day, but that's just my opinion. I'm starting to really suspect that nobody has Sebastian's best interest. I'm completely dumbfounded by this clip and UCN. It's a mess. I don't get it. I don't know what the hell's going on. Yeah, we're going to listen to the whole thing on the podcast. Well, like we usually do. It's not out on her YouTube. Okay. Lindley in London posted these clips. And again, this guy's name, I'll put his name on the top. I put the description. It's I'm sure it's worth to go watch his interview. Check it out after I'm done if you like. It's in the description. I'm going to play a snippet. But it's crazy, the things that were put out. All right, I'll start playing it, and I'm going to add his name to the top. Oh, hold on. This thing always mutes for some reason. Unmute tab.
But I've also taught him that not everybody is your friend. And I had to do that. There was an incident in California before Chris and Katie came back here. There was another CPS incident in California at her house. Katie and Chris let a child into their house that was 5 years older than my son. My son was 7 or 8 at the time, and this kid was 13.
Okay, so Katie, which is my ADD ass, fully.
Katie and Chris let a child into their house that was 5 years older than my son. My son was 7 or 8 at the time, and this kid was 13. And she has a habit of not checking on her kid. I would never let some kid that's 5 years older than my son play with my son anyways. It's like, why do you want to play with my son? There's a 5-year difference. That's a pretty big difference. You're 13, and my son, you're a teenager. My son is not a teenager. He's still.
I don't think that's necessarily like a just speaking on the age difference in itself. You know, I know different parents, kids with different ages. Of course, I keep an eye on them. It all depends, you know, but sometimes there's a couple of years age difference.
Playing with Hot Wheels and Legos, and, you know, he's building things. He's playing video games, and you're a teenager. You go out and you have your own, you know, age-appropriate group that you play with.
It depends. I mean, I wonder, he said 5-year age difference?
And they were letting this kid play with my son, and they weren't checking on him. And then this kid took my son's innocence, and he molested him.
Wow.
So you take your time.
And there was nothing I could do in California because the kid was 13.
Is that true?
But they let that happen. And they didn't bother to try to even get my son help until last year.
Yeah, I feel really bad for him. I've heard of stories like that. Thank God my mother, you know, strict as hell. Even when you're strict, it can still happen, you know, but thank God my mother's helicopter. I knew of a person that had happened to. I had heard her story. But the age difference is like that. So Katie says, my 8-year-old, I wouldn't let her play with the 13-year-olds. My son is 12 and I don't like And I don't like that either. It's a big difference that age. 13 and 8 isn't crazy. I guess it depends on people. I mean, I know kids with once you start getting a more of an age difference, there's different interests, of course. You know.
Here, my son is just turned 15 in December. It means he's been dealing with an emotional, stressful, traumatic incident for the last 7 years. And I've been trying to help him. I've been trying to get him help. Going to talk to his doctor and telling them what happened. And for the doctor to tell me, she was like, I knew none of this stuff. And I'm like, really? Because he's supposed to be seeing a therapist for this. And she's like, well, he's not seeing the right type of therapist for this type of trauma. I care about my son. And actions speak so much louder than words. And there's just no justification for the actions that I have seen from them. They're not parents. They're not parents at all.
Wow.
And I want to know what happened to my son.
Wow. I'm gonna have to go watch Justin's video later. Wow. I mean, I can't imagine the pain that he feels. I don't want to ever know what that feels like, that having that kind of pain. And it's got to be frustrating because from what we've heard, like these people aren't even communicating with him. I don't think the biological mother and the stepfather, they just kind of like left out in the dark. And I think they're in another state, I guess, for work. Here's another clip, I think. Okay, here's another clip I got, and then we'll listen to Nancy Grace. It keeps muting every time.
Told my mom, your grandson's a pedophile. No, he's not. He's a victim that hasn't got the help that he deserves and that he needs so that he can get over the traumatic incident that has happened to him. That should have never happened underneath their watch to begin with. That's why Chris doesn't want my son around his daughter. Because he's scared that my son is going to do the same thing that was done to him. My mother told my mom, your grandson's a pedophile. No.
Wow. What a mess. So that was, again, that's on this guy's YouTube page, Justin on TikTok. The link is in the description. If you want to check out, I don't want to take away from his interview like that, but you can go check it out. I want to listen to some of the Nancy Grace. She did post a clip here. Did we just watch? I think we just watched this, actually. Yeah, we just watched that. Let's listen to this episode. And, hold on, I had an article here, too. What was that? So this was kind of like the latest as far as searching. As of April 3rd, as many as 200 law enforcement officers combed through the Long Hollow Pike area, walking in grid searches and searching through thickets along creek beds. During a press conference, they said that there's been no evidence pointing to foul play, but they're not ruling out anything. And the pair of glasses that were found are not related. They're not Sebastian's. There's no new leads that would indicate that Wednesday's search would be fruitful. They're leaving no stone unturned. That's it. There's basically, like, officially, there's really no updates. That's the crazy. No updates officially. Here's this podcast, Nancy.
Check out Unpacking Israeli History podcast from the history of info.
Preparing you covered.
Canvassing areas that have already been searched. Could it have anything to do with the fact that Sebastian's glasses may have been found. And right now, controversy swirling about a polygraph. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us here at Crime Stories.
Check out Unpacking Israeli
intimidating. Dents, scratches, or
Why is
People have said polygraphs might not be accurate, right? I mean, they say it's not admissible in court, or maybe in certain cases it might be. I wonder if there's people that have told the truth and failed the polygraphs.
this is unusual for a research of an area that may have already been searched? What precipitated the new search? This, as we learn, eyeglasses have been found. Are they Sebastian's? First of all, on the new search, joining me, Lauren Conlon, investigative reporter and host of The Outlier. Lauren, thank you for being with us. I understand that a new search has just been launched. Who, what, where, when, why? Tell me.
Yes, so as you said, Nancy, it's in Hendersonville, and it's the same areas, and it's sheriffs in Sumner County and counties all over, and it's EMS workers, and it's more volunteers, and I believe it is the Sumner County EMS is saying 6 to 10 miles and so on. So this happened this morning. This is breaking news. They are saying this has nothing to do with the press conference yesterday with the glasses found, but that is all we know.
Guys, when you hear Lauren Conlon, who's been on the case from the very beginning of missing autistic boy Sebastian Rogers, when you hear her say volunteers, there's a caveat to that. They are law enforcement, EMTs, people in the criminal law business, all banding together for a new search. This, as we learn, that glasses have been found, that could be very significant. And joining me is someone who is acutely aware of all the facts surrounding that pair of glasses. Seth Rogers is with us. Seth is Sebastian's biological father, and you may have gone online and seen Seth. At first you see nothing but densely forested woodland, and then you realize it's Seth Rogers out there on foot looking for his son. He hasn't quit. He took a brief respite over Easter break, and now he's back at it. Seth Rogers, thank you for being with us. You can find him at Sebastian Strong. Seth, tell me about the discovery of the glasses.
My volunteers found them in Gallatin at around 210 Hutch Street on Monday.
Seth, no offense, but you're speaking Greek to me. Okay, where is that? Where is that in relation to Sebastian's home where he was living with his mother, Miss Proudfoot?
It's about 14 miles from his mom's residence. It's not in Hendersonville.
Had he recently gotten new glasses, or am I seeing, Seth Rogers, his actual glasses?
They were close enough that I asked the Sumner County to bag and tag them. I mean, when I saw them through the pictures from my volunteers and they stated they couldn't get a hold of anybody, I flagged down a deputy sheriff and I told them to put on some gloves, put them in a bag and bring them in. And that's what they did. They took pictures around the area to show where they were laying and how they were laying on the street, so they would have some type of recollection on where they were placed or left at, or however they needed. And they brought them into where our volunteers gather every morning, and chain of evidence was completed and they took them in.
Guys, joining us is Sebastian's biological father, Seth Rogers. Seth, I want to circle back to what you said. These glasses were found about 14 miles from where Sebastian resided with his mother and stepfather. A volunteer found them. Were you on the search when the volunteer found them?
I was not with the group.
Not with.
Supposedly on Facebook, people that have watched that interview I've been talking about, they say supposedly, I guess maybe this was said in that interview. If people in the chat that have watched it, maybe you can confirm. Facebook is saying that Seth Rogers taking a polygraph on 410. So I guess he says he's going to take it, even though they haven't asked him to do it. Maybe he's just going to do it. And then they say Chris Proud for going down, blah, blah, blah.
With that group, where then
Correct.
were the glasses out in a forested area? I heard you mention a street. Were they thrown by the side of the street?
They were on the side of the road.
So, okay, you just clarified something for me. It's in a residential area, like a cul-de-sac?
I don't believe it was a cul-de-sac, but I believe it's Hutch Court, so I believe it was leading into a cul-de-sac.
If you were in a car, how long would it take you to get from where Sebastian lived with his mom to where the glasses were found?
Depending on traffic, probably about 14, 15 minutes.
Of course, we're talking about an area that has hills, some mountains, so it's not always as simple as it sounds to go 14 miles. It could take 14 minutes. It could take an hour if you have to go over a hill to get there. But long story short, he's telling us about 15 minutes from home. Do you believe Sebastian has ever walked through this area?
I have no idea. I don't even know what's in the area.
I wonder if he had any friends there, but you believe these glasses are similar enough to the glasses we're seeing that you asked.
Well, I know that Chris is not taking it. That's part of the conversation. I know Chris is not going to take it, apparently, but somebody on Facebook said that Seth is going to do it.
For them to be bagged. Were they cracked? Were they broken in any way?
No, ma'am. They had some scratch marks on the inside of the nose piece, and that was it. The lenses weren't scratched. There was no scuff marks on the outside of them.
Guys, you are hearing Seth Rogers, this is Sebastian's bio dad, speaking about a discovery this weekend, a discovery regarding Sebastian's glasses. Now, the reality is, it is a simple matter to determine if these are really his. Seth is telling us they look enough like them that they could very well be his, and they've been taken into evidence. To make sure, what we do is take the lens out and compare it to his last diagnosis and his last lens prescription to find out, are these really Sebastian's glasses? And if so, why were they there? Also, we're going to be looking for prints. We're going to be looking for any DNA at all on these glasses. What, if anything, can they tell us? Back to Lauren Conlon, guys. Right now, as we are speaking, a new search is underway for Sebastian. Lauren Conlon joining us from The Outlier. Lauren, any idea what sparked a new search?
I mean, I think people at this point, and obviously Seth Rogers included, are so worried and so concerned, especially after hearing about the glasses. So I personally think this also has to do with the Cajun Navy last week saying, okay, we're going to step back, we're going to regroup, we're not going to stop. And so in turn, I think more people, more organizations stepped up to help.
So bottom line, we don't know. Maybe the glasses, maybe the fact that Cajun Navy is stepping back, but we know the search is happening right now, and we know where the search is. It's an area that has already been searched, which I find very, very intriguing. Why are they researching a particular area?
Nancy, if I can jump in for just a second, there has just been a post from the Sumner County Sheriff's Office. They want to clarify that those eyeglasses that were found are not related to Sebastian Rogers.
Guys, in addition to Lauren Conlon and Seth Rogers, joining us is Dave Mack, crimeonline.com investigative reporter, who has also been on the disappearance of Sebastian Rogers from the very, very beginning. Dave Mack, let me just say at the outset, recently, the stepfather, Mr. Proudfoot, stated that he would take a polygraph if we set it up. As a matter of fact, take a listen to this. Have the two of you taken a polygraph?
I have.
I have not.
Would you be willing to?
I've offered and volunteered on many occasions to take a polygraph, and I was told directly by law enforcement because of my whereabouts, I did not need one.
I understand. Ms. Proudfoot, did you pass your polygraph?
I did.
Okay, now listen to this. He says, I've offered and volunteered on many occasions to take a polygraph. I was told directly by law enforcement because of my whereabouts, I did not need one. Listen to more. And Mr. Proudfoot, you have volunteered to take a poly?
Yes, ma'am.
If I were to set up a poly for you, would you take it?
Name the place and time, ma'am. I'll be there.
Well, we did.
That's crazy, man. Because I think people don't expect you sometimes to call out their bluff. And like, okay, it's fine.
We did that. We set up a polygrapher, a very well-respected polygrapher, a place and a time. Mr. Proudfoot tells us that he has been instructed by the TBI not to be on with us today and ask for help finding his son, his stepson, and not to take a polygraph. I've never heard of that. I always loved it when witnesses, targets, or defendants, anybody would take a polygraph. If I want my own polygraph, I will get one as an assistant district attorney. So I find that very curious that he would be dissuaded from asking for the help from the public as we see a volunteer search launching right now with law enforcement, and not to take a polygraph. Now, very curious.
Shine in every new episode wherever you listen to.
For generations to come, fulfill your dreams. Find your purpose. Anywhere.
So, yeah, they literally sent a polygraph to this dude because he's like, name the place, name the time, I'll take it. And apparently now he's been instructed by TBI not to be on the Ned's Gray show, I guess, anymore, according to him, and ask for help finding his stepson, and to not take the polygraph. So, okay. I'll try to get a benefit of the doubt, but, it's a little weird.
Anytime. Isn't that true?
He said it. Anywhere you name the place, I'll be there.
He also told us, should I believe him or my lying ears, that he has never taken a polygraph before. Didn't he tell us that?
That's what he said. He told you that.
Okay. Dave Mack, crimeonline.com investigative reporter, did he not tell another outlet he had already taken a polygraph and passed it?
Yep, he sure did.
That's what I heard.
Words. He said somebody asked.
Explain, please.
He did interviews. He did a number of interviews, Nancy, when, and in this one particular, asked about, have you taken a polygraph? He said, somebody asked the question, this is a direct quote, was a polygraph taken and has it been passed? Yes. I didn't specify who or when, but what I can tell you, everything has been vetted completely. Polygraphs have come back as passed, so I'm confused as in why they're all wondering if myself, my wife, and the biological father took one. Exact words. That's what he said.
Okay, but Seth Rogers, this is Sebastian's dad, his bio dad. Sebastian, Seth, I don't understand that because he told me he would take a polygraph if I set it up. I set it up. I went through a lot of hoops to get it set up. One convenient to him in the area where he says he's working. Then he wouldn't take it and blames the TBI. So now I find out he's told other outlets he's taken one and passed. Do you know the truth?
I don't. I really don't know, but I'll tell you what. I volunteered to take polygraph. I was told that I wasn't. I didn't need to because they have my location and whereabouts. But I still volunteered, and if somebody wants me to take one, that's something of my own free will. I haven't been told by TBI that I can't take one.
I've got a lot of things I need to dissect very quickly. Dave Mack, you and I have been scouring the internet and speaking to various witnesses. Mr. Proudfoot tells me to my face that he hit Sebastian with a belt. This is an autistic boy. An autistic boy. Do they, at his level of severity of autism. And I've got an expert, Courtney Lasky, is going to explain this to me. I did not teach this in law school. How would that affect a child with autism? But that said, I want to focus on what I'm hearing, Dave Mack. Help me, Dave. I'm hearing that it happened years ago. And both of those quotes where you heard Chris Proudfoot speaking, he said several years ago. Then he says, when I press him on that, he says at least 3 years ago. However, he stated a different scenario to a different person. Explain, Dave Mack.
He did a YouTube interview, and in that interview, he described the actual belt whack. And, you know, in your interview, he said that the belt whack did not lead to a CPS call.
Stop. I asked you about the age of Sebastian when Sebastian was hit with the belt. One thing at a time, brother. The age of Sebastian. He said it was 3 years ago.
He said in another interview that the 15-year-old boy was upset. He was in trouble. He said he's 15 and in trouble. He was describing why Sebastian was mad about the punishment, the whack. And he said, 15-year-old boy, punishment. Now, that's not 3 years ago. That's within the last 12 months.
That is within the same year that Sebastian goes missing. That is a significant point.
And in your interview, Katie agreed with him. She was saying, yeah, at least 3 years.
Yes, she did. You're right. You're absolutely right. What, Seth?
His birthday, December 7th. He just turned 15.
Okay, the significance of that is that he had not been 15 that long, according to this, when he got whacked with a belt. So, does it matter when he got whacked with a belt? To me, it matters if you're telling two different stories. That's what matters. I've never been hit or hit anyone with a belt. And I remember the last time either one of my children were spanked. It was Lucy, because she clobbered John David in the head with a piece of wood. She turned around and looked at me and went, is that it, basically? Because I was spanking her through a huge diaper. Okay, it didn't work, so that was the last smack. Long story short, there's a whole scenario that I need to talk with Ms. Lasky about, hitting a child that is autistic with a belt, or any child with a belt, for Pete's sake. But that said, what's concerning me now is two different stories. And as Dave Mack first said, we've got a CPS issue. Because if you will recall, Dave Mack, in that last sound I played of Mr. Proudfoot speaking to me, I said, how did that turn into a CPS, Child Protective Services complaint? And he says, that did not turn into a CPS complaint. But wait a minute. He's told a different story to a different person. Tell me, Dave Mack, and make sure you're right.
Describing the belt whack, the specific belt whack, hit him one time with the belt, and Chris Proudfoot said, Seth, that Sebastian went to school, told a teacher what had happened, and he actually says the school, they're an automatic reporter, and they reported it to CPS. He went further to say, that night, when they were sitting down to dinner, a CPS worker came to their house that evening, to their house. And by the way, he added, they knew the CPS worker because she had been to the house before. He went on to explain heroically how he didn't get in trouble, but that this caseworker allegedly took Sebastian outside and told him, you can't tell lies about people, you'll get in trouble yourself. So the story from Chris Proudfoot in this other version is that he spanked Sebastian. Sebastian went to school and told a teacher. Teacher reported it to CPS. CPS came out to their house that night while they're eating dinner and didn't even want to hear Chris Proudfoot's side of the story. He said, I already know what happened, and took Sebastian outside and talked to him. The boy needed help, and there was nobody helping, apparently.
Okay, Liz, if you don't mind, could you play 23 for me one more time? Listen to Sebastian's stepfather Mr. Proudfoot, was that the first time you had ever hit him with a belt?
Yes, ma'am. The one and only time, actually.
I don't believe that.
When was this?
Years ago, ma'am.
Oh, years ago, he said.
Any idea how many? 3, 10, 1?
It probably at least 3 years ago.
I don't understand how that turned into a CPS or Child Protective Services complaint. How were they alerted that you hit him with a belt?
That did not turn into a CPS service call.
As we go to air right now, we are learning a new search is being conducted by LA law enforcement volunteers, apparently recanvassing an area that has already been searched. Why? Why the focus on that one area? Joining me in the last moments, Brian Trasher joining us, VP of the United Cajun Navy. Brian, you and I have been talking a lot is happening. One, you called off the search one day just before the search started, and two, there's a lot of hate going on against the Cajun Navy. I don't get it. You're out there on your own time, volunteering, trying to help find Sebastian or a clue of Sebastian. Somebody is full of a lot of hate for volunteers, which proves no good deed goes unpunished. And I'm hearing, by the way, the same thing, something similar, from Seth Rogers, who is Sebastian's bio dad. The searches are being torpedoed. I don't understand it. Number one, Brian Trasher, why has the Cajun Navy pulled out of a search?
Well, just to be clear, we gave up or called off leading the public searches. So we're no longer putting out a public call for volunteers and leading searches with volunteers. We did have some volunteers that were threatened despite what so the local PD said in their press conference. We did have some credible threats. We have recordings of telephone threats. We have surveillance video of in-person threats. I know it was said that there was no police report filed. There was a police report filed about a threat with Metro Nashville PD. It's not clear as to whether those departments share information with each other.
So he's saying, according to, in response to the press conference that we watched, he's saying that there was threats, they have it on video, and that they did make a police report, but maybe to a different police station is his claims. And so now they're not doing public searches, I guess just private searches. It's interesting.
But we did provide a copy of that report with your producers just to show that we are telling the truth. Why the hate? I think that there are some people out there who make money off of tragedies. And when volunteer groups come in and try to take over and help, I think it takes away from their potential revenue. And when you mess with people's money, they get mad. I think that's just part of it. I had a conversation with Seth Rogers on Easter Sunday. He has his own theories about why himself and other volunteer groups are being impeded in the search for Sebastian, about why they're receiving so much online hate. I'll let Seth speak for himself and his own experience.
Yes, we'll do that. I want to talk to you about you and the Cajun Navy. I heard some of the threats myself, recorded threats. But could you...
Oh, so she got to hear it. Okay. Oh.
Succinctly, in a nutshell, explain what type of threats have been leveled against members of the Cajun Navy who are out trying to find Sebastian.
Basically just a lot of, we're going to run you out of town. We're going to dox you. We're going to, tell everybody where your family lives, things like that. But, Nancy, what we've found is that we've run background checks on all the people that have made these threats. They thought they could remain anonymous, and they're all career criminals. They all have rap sheets a mile long. So criminal activity is nothing new to them. So it doesn't surprise us that they would have the gumption to go ahead and make threats like this. But I think what they were mistaken is when they thought there was going to be no retaliation. And when we basically started exposing these people and putting information out there, boy, they really freaked out. So my message to those people making threats, if you'll stop lying about the United Cajun Navy, we'll stop telling the truth about you.
Okay, you know what? I don't really care, Brian. who's lying on who. Those are just words. I care about finding Sebastian.
Yeah, but you did ask. I mean, you asked what's going on, so he's telling you what's going on. It's messy. It's messy as hell. I mean, I guess people are doing threats. I don't know. I guess who am I to say, right? Nancy says she heard it. I just got a little surprised. Maybe I guess I shouldn't be surprised. I don't know why I'm surprised. Surprised that people would. I mean, there's people out there that feel that these people are frauds or whatever. They feel like, they're not in it for the right reasons and taking advantage and crowdsourcing money and then just kind of keeping it and not actually doing what they say they were going to do. These are some of the claims that I've heard, and so maybe that's why people are pissed, but the doxing and like physical threats, it's never a good thing,
And I
Correct.
care about
if it's happening.
someone trying to torpedo the search, be it with law enforcement, with the Cajun Navy, with Seth Rogers, the biological father of Sebastian. Seth Rogers, you've told me that someone is also trying to sabotage your search for your own son.
That's crazy.
What's happening?
Somebody doesn't want me to find my son. They have been there's things that have been coming in off the internet that I need to stop searching for him. I've had people following me around since I would say day 9, day 10. People have been following me around. Once I started getting volunteers to help me, they started following around my volunteers, trying to be an intimidative factor. And now I found out that not only that, but they're going back to where we've already flyered, and they're taking the flyers down.
Okay, I don't know what to make of this. Brian Trasher is the vice president of the United Cajun Navy, okay? And there have been many incarnations of the Cajun Navy. But this is what I know. This group is out searching for Sebastian. They called off part of the search because they perceived threats. Now the bio dad, Seth, is telling me that flyers have been torn down for Sebastian. I don't understand that. What's happening, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, as you heard us say in the past, you now heard Sebastian's father, Seth, say that there are, without question, people in the local community, whether the locals or not remains to be seen, but there are people there in Sumner County that do not want this boy found, and they want people who are searching for him to stop, and they've resorted to threats to try to make them stop. Fortunately, it hasn't worked because we still have people out there looking, and I know Seth is not going to stop looking for his son.
Guys, take a listen to what Dave Mack from Crime Online has to say.
The United Cajun Navy surprised many people that showed up for a recent search in Hendersonville for Sebastian Rogers. Just before people were preparing to gather, the United Cajun Navy came out with a post on Facebook and said they were calling off their search for Sebastian Rogers over security reasons. Pressed for more details, the United Cajun Navy said they are concerned over the security for their staff and volunteers, as some are getting death threats online and in person. They said they were going to regroup in a few days and decide how best to move forward.
Again, no good deed going unpunished. Why would people tear down flyers that have been placed up by Sebastian's father looking for him, and the toll-free numbers and descriptions of the boy? Why is this happening? And why is the Cajun Navy being threatened? I want to figure out, Brian Trasher, how you picked that particular area to search.
It was a combination of some information when we first got there that Seth provided, some areas that he had showed us that had already been searched and areas that he felt would be good to search. Other areas were just kind of triangulating from the last known location of the young man at his home, and trying to figure out some places he would have been easy for him to walk to, places that he frequented before. We knew that there were some places that he liked to visit, but from what his mother said, he didn't have a history of wandering off without telling anybody. So we wanted to make sure that we were searching every nook and cranny that we could to find this boy.
What can you tell me about that retention pond? There were reports a dog had hit on the retention pond. The pond was drained and nothing was found. Do I have that correct?
I don't have any information with regards to that. I know there's been a lot of confusion about when dogs hit and where and things like that. We go with the information that we have at the time. My understanding is that that pond was drained and nothing was found there. But Seth might be able to tell you a little bit more about some of the areas that the dogs searched closer to the home and if there were confirmed hits or not.
Can we do to help?
One of the dog handlers that their dog did hit on a scent that took him over into the construction area to a retention pond. I was later told by law enforcement that it was a false hit. I was also informed that
This was a big point of like contention too. I have to head out like in 10 minutes. We got about 10, 15 minutes maybe. But this was a big point of contention. Let's see here. Let's listen to this again.
That occurred around the Proudfoot controversy surrounding the search for Sebastian. And I find that very odd that people are not pulling together to try to find Sebastian. But that said, can you please shed some light on the search that occurred around the Proudfoot home? Did dogs hit on areas around the home and leading to the retention pond?
I was first told by one of the dog handlers that their dog did hit on a scent that took him over into the construction area to a retention pond. I was later told by law enforcement that it was a false hit. I was also informed that they searched that pond where the dog went to and they did not find anything. And I was told that they were going to actually go back and drain that retention pond, and they had drained a separate retention pond.
So you think they may have already drained 2 ponds?
Yes, ma'am.
The reason I'm asking, Seth, is because your ex, Miss Proudfoot, stated that the dog hit and got Sebastian's scent around the home. Now I'm hearing it didn't. Was that hit at the retention pond, the false hit, or was it around their home?
I'm being told by law enforcement that the dog hit to the retention pond was a false hit.
Do you know of any hit by the dogs around the Proudfoot home at all?
Not on the outside.
Were there hits on the inside?
I believe so.
Okay, there should have been. Now, this is my conundrum, Seth. If there are no hits for Sebastian outside the Proudfoot home, that would suggest he did not leave the home. Earlier, I was asking the Proudfoots about their vehicles, what's their make, model, and year, to determine if there was a navigation system in those vehicles that could tell me if the vehicles left the home that night. That's what I was getting at. I don't know the answer to that yet, but I believe that there were. You're telling me you were not told of any canine hit around the home. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That's critical. Joining me, Dr. Sherry Schwartz, forensic psychologist who specializes in forensic psychology, capital mitigation, and victim advocacy at panthermitigation.com. Dr. Sherry, this search for Sebastian, if he is alive, he could still be saved. But it is degrading into a lot of infighting amongst searchers. I don't understand that.
I don't understand it either, and I certainly am no expert in these kinds of searches, but it doesn't seem to me that I've ever heard of anything so vitriolic in the behavior of people searching to find a missing teenager. One of the things that seems to be happening is there seems to be maybe a little bit of territory, protecting their territory type thing, wanting maybe to be the organization.
Dr. Sherry.
Yes.
They're out in the middle of the woods. Whose territory is that? Nobody's.
No, I agree with you 100%, Nancy. The thing is, we know now that trolling is a thing. People troll. I don't understand why this situation would attract trolls and for people to make threats when everybody just wants to find this little boy, preferably alive. It seems to me that people should be jumping in to help. So I don't have an explanation for that other than that when they can remain anonymous, relatively anonymous, the trolling seems to increase. But as Brian pointed out earlier, when these people are exposed, all of a sudden they back off because they don't want to be known as trolls.
Another question to you, Seth Rogers. This is Sebastian's biological father who has been out on foot searching for his son. Seth, did you say you have or have not, would not take a polygraph?
I would.
Wonderful. If I set one up for you, will you take the polygraph?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because you know I will hold this against you if you then don't take the polygraph. Right? You understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I want to know where everybody really was that night. For instance,
Go on, Nancy.
if Mr. Proudfoot was where he says he is, or says he was, at work near Memphis, I believe he would have been in his RV. Is that your understanding, Seth?
That would be my understanding.
So, if you're in an RV park, and I've been in a lot of them with the twins and my husband, they are covered in security cams. Where's the security footage? Did he leave? Did he go home? I don't know. Has his RV been seized? Has it been processed? This does not mean at all that he had anything to do with Sebastian's disappearance. This is part of a thorough investigation. That's all I'm saying. Question, did Sebastian know how to swim?
Yes, ma'am. My son was like a fish.
Interesting, like a fish.
Before he could walk.
Okay, good to know. We've had a lot of questions about that.
I have a question for Seth.
Please jump in, and remember, guys, we're not having high tea at Windsor Castle. I don't know how many times I got to tell you this. We're not with Charles and Camilla, so jump in. You're hearing Lauren Conlon. Go ahead, Lauren.
Yes, Seth. So we've heard law enforcement state many times that all the parents are cooperating. To me, this is not the same thing as being ruled out as a suspect. Has law enforcement directly said to you, we are ruling you out as a suspect, or we are looking at someone else as a suspect? I'm just curious the difference there.
They've told me that we're all suspects. We're all suspects until Sebastian is found. This is an open investigation, so the only way that the investigation will close is we find Sebastian. And that's my purpose.
Right. And in terms of the last time I was on this panel, and we did ask Chris Proudfoot about the United Cajun Navy, his words exactly were, when they were at a restaurant and Katie was on the phone, he said, quote, my wife was on the phone with the Cajun Navy, and that's how they were brought in. Did you happen to hear him say that?
I've heard that he said that.
Okay, and that is not true at all. This is all you. I've seen your mother post about this. I've seen the Cajun Navy post about you. I just heard Brian. So that is false.
From my understanding, they're the ones that I reached out to them. They were trying to get a hold of me. I had somebody get a phone number so I could turn around and speak to Mr. Terrell. And I called him up on his personal cell phone.
That's Todd. Okay, got it. And then the last thing was that everybody wants to know the picture with Sebastian without the glasses. You asked for that to be photoshopped so people could see what he looked like without glasses, just in case those are possibly his. That is correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Joining me right now, a special guest, Courtney Lasky, board-certified behavior analyst, autism expert, chief clinical officer with Little Starts Therapy Service. Courtney, thank you for being with us. I understand, and of course, Seth, correct me if I'm wrong, that Sebastian suffered 6q27 chromosomal deletion disorder. What is that, and how would that affect him being lost right now?
Yeah, so anytime we have a chromosomal deletion syndrome, we can think of it as an umbrella term. Our chromosomes act as codes in our behavior, the way we develop. With his specific deletion of the 6q27 chromosome, the symptoms related to that, even though it is rare, it does associate with intellectual disabilities. So we would see the symptomology of autism spectrum disorders. But sadly, it also is associated with with a higher risk of seizures and possible heart defects. It's very, very worrisome that Sebastian might have those symptoms and be gone for so long without medical care.
How would that affect him now if he is out there and if he's still alive and lost?
Yes. Anytime we have that intellectual disability, symptoms related to autism, we know that those social skills, our communication, which not only is our expressive language, but it's also our receptive, what we're understanding, how we're processing the environment around us. He may be struggling with understanding what is happening, what he should do in different circumstances. I am so glad to hear Mr. Rogers saying that he swims like a fish, because we do know that 91% of autistic children, that is the highest risk of death for them.
Yeah, they're attracted to water. I think last final thing, because I gotta wrap it up. By the way, there's all this talk about bird flu now. On a different note, I don't know if something's going on, or if this is the next thing that's gonna happen, or they're prepping us. Bird flu could be 100 times worse than COVID. Scientists warn. Here we go. Be ready. There is a history with the United Cajun Navy and issues with volunteers in the past with the specific company. What's the name of the company? Sea Corps. The head of United Cajun Navy has been accused by two men in a volunteer effort of searching for the missing Sea Corps power crew members of extortion and cyber stalking over demands for money they claim he is hiding. So there was a lawsuit. That whole thing has been a mess. A hot mess. Snickerdoodle, thank you for the 11 months, says hi Mel and Icky crew. Appreciate all you. I can't read. Appreciate all you to keep us informed. My main news source, thank you. AB801, thank you for the 5 months, says hey Mel, I just posted on Discord about a missing YouTuber. Might be a good story to cover. I had a friend sending me information about that. I thought about covering it. Seems interesting. And SW4x4, thank you for the 5, says why the F would anyone impede the search for a missing child? Please make it make sense. I don't understand it. Ain't no damn sense to me. And when I come back, I'll be back in a bit. We might have this court hearing. I hope it's gonna be interesting. This the mother that sent her child to stay with the boyfriend to do boot camp. So we'll check that out maybe today. There's a bunch of stuff I want to do. So we'll see. All right. Love you guys. Take care. Peace. Bye.